Hello, you're listening to Wine Blast. I'm Susie, he's Peter. We're both masters of wine and we'd like you to join us on a little adventure.
That sounds a bit dodgy.
Don't know.
Maybe it was the way it came out. It's not dodgy. Totally legit. Lots of fun. So this is our big English wine adventure, which we launched 5 years ago, I think now. It's a bit crazy, a bit scary for us, but to summarise, we're making 3 delicious English wines. We're releasing later this year. All profits are going to charity and we need your help.
Yeah, we need you to suggest an inspired name for our wines and also a charity for us to support. If we go with your suggestion, you could win a very fine boxed set of all 3 wines worth around £100, which are, of course, set to be collector's items.
Yeah, and that's not to pat ourselves on the back either, because the real credit for this must go to, a couple of brilliant UK wine growers and winemakers, and of course England itself for being able to produce amazing wines.
Indeed. Now, we will explain more about all of this in a bit, including how you can get involved, help us out, hopefully win yourself some of these very special wines, or at the very least, get on the waiting list to buy the wines. They're going to be very small productions, so when they go on sale later this year, there won't be many bottles to go around.
No.
We're going to want a few.
Yeah. And there's going to be more info in the show notes, by the way. And we do have a deadline on this as well. 2nd of May for this competition, for nominations. But we'll come on to all that in a bit.
Because before we start, we did want to mention a couple of other things, didn't we? Including another giveaway.
Yeah, that's right. So in our last but one episode, I think it was, on sommeliers, we ran a giveaway courtesy of Blinders, the blind tasting card game from Som TV. We just wanted to say thank you to everyone who entered. Another fun competition, and congratulations to our 3, I think 4.
I think it was 4, sort of.
Well, technically 4. Lovely winners. We advertised 3, we have 4. It's great. Always over delivering. To Sarah or Sarah, to the Winking Winos, who are sommeliers.
So our 2.
Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, guys. And podcasters. Hi, guys. And Shenaz as well. So thank you. Well done to you guys. We hope you enjoy the cards and the game. Send us in some photos of you having fun with the cards. We've already had one from the Winking Winos, which is lovely. So, it's great.
A few more.
Thank you.
And for those of you who didn't win, why not get involved in this episode's giveaway? And maybe you could be the winner this time around. And I talking winning, wasn't there another slightly more kind of ad hoc invitational? You were ringleading recently, weren't you? Come on.
It sounds like a golf tournament.
Spill the beans.
Like which I don't do. But yeah, absolutely. So my friend Mark, my lovely friend Mark, who runs Lupton Wines here in the UK, knows, I think it's fair to say, my enthusiasm for wine is almost matched by my enthusiasm for the Simpsons.
Not quite.
TV show. Not quite? I think it's close.
It's neck and neck, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Anyway, and he clearly
spend as much time on both of them.
Mark has eagle eyes because he sent me a still photo from an episode he'd seen in which Mo Sislak, the famously grumpy bartender in The Simpsons, has a couple of inspired bottles on his back bar, including, and this is what caught Mark's eye, La Mondotte, which, as you know, is pretty highfalutin Santa Emilion Grand Cru.
They know their stuff with The Simpsons, don't they?
And also, they do. And also a bottle of Mo et Chandon, which is just brilliant. And
Mo.
That's a still. That would flash most people by, but Mark saw this, picked up on it, sent me the photo. Anyway, Mo et Chandon, it's obviously tying in with Mo's name, and The Simpsons, as you say, is famous for this kind of in-joke, the kind of highbrow in-joke. But I thought it'd be fun to then put this photo on social media and ask people for wine name suggestions to tie in with The Simpsons characters. And my opening gambit was Ro Mo Ne Conti.
You don't get much higher than that. Now, I've got a feeling, I'm going to say something now. I've got a feeling you might need to explain. If you're going to go through these, you're going to need to explain in pretty basic terms to me and many of our listeners who might not quite share your particular infatuation with The Simpsons. What this is all about and
I'll try and
what these names mean.
As more as I can. I'm sorry for those people who don't like puns or who don't like The Simpsons. I'll be brief, but for those people who do, we've got I'm going to start with names on Mo. So we've got Saint Mosef from Charlie Conrath, brilliant. Simpsons Pinot.
San Mosef, yes, got it.
Simpsons Pinot Meunier.
Got
from Mark Capra, brilliant. Moselle Riesling by Andrew Stevenson. That's flat flows.
Simple but effective.
But of course, Amoroni from Hannah. Molin Avant from Juan Jose Ledesma. Maubriand, Quinta de Mauval, and Beaujolais from Charles Taverner.
Excellent.
Chateau Mozart. That was a favourite from Leon Markham. And then finally, Guy Smith said it's not wine, but he'd love a mojito. I love that one.
I think that's my favourite.
There's other ones involving other Simpsons characters or hybrids. Bart Simpson's a character, so Alfonso, Ollie, Gadney, and Ed Jolliffe suggested Chateau Mauvesin Bart on. Good. Tracy Saunders went one better. He included Lisa Simpson, one of my favourite characters, and that hers was Mo Scadet sur Lisa.
Oh,
I thought that was brilliant. Then we had Dan Later,
Lisa. I do like Lisa.
Sideshow Bob Mondavi. Just going to leave that one there.
I definitely don't get that one. No.
Monty Burns is another character, and Mimi Avery suggested Burns Castell, and then Marge Simpson and Smithers are two characters, and Ben suggested one of my favourites, which was Bon Marge.
I do like that one.
And also Chateau Smithers Au Lafitte, which it's I don't know, small things make me happy.
I know.
But
these little things,
the
darling.
ultimate winners.
As long as it keeps you and your little Simpsons loving friends busy and happy,
Wait,
it's
not. I
definitely
haven't
worth
said
it.
that with me and my little Simpsons friends. The winners, which was Hommage à Jacques Perrin, the famous wine by Chateau Beaucastel, in the hands of James Hubbard, became Hommage à Jacques Perrin. I thought that was very
Does that win
good.
it? Is that your top one?
And Jacques also a character in The Simpsons, so that was a hat trick. But the ultimate winner, my ultimate favourite, came from Christo. And there is a character called Apu in The Simpsons too. And instead of Hermitage from Maison Chapoutier, which we all know and love, Christo suggested Homatage from Maison Chapoutier, which is the winner. Because that is three bona fide characters of The Simpsons in one wine name.
Fair enough. But no prize this time, I'm afraid. Just the kudos of having your suggestion read out on Wine Blast.
Well, I don't know. I think for me, Christo is destined for a full cameo on The Simpsons now. Maybe as a sommelier, I can see then a Hollywood career. I can see Christo a couple of years filling Brad Pitt's glass on the next heist movie.
Right.
Clooney, Christo.
Well, from Brad Pitt's wine glass to Essex Pinot Noir.
Yeah, you're with them. Yeah,
I think maybe we should have gone via Angelina Jolie's white stilettos. Anyway, let's get on with the episode. And I think it would be good to start with just a brief recap, an explanation to set the scene and probably, just try to clarify everything, what we're talking about here.
So what is this Big English Wine
After
Adventure?
all this crazy Simpsons
nonsense.
nonsense.
Let's move on. I'm just trying to shake myself down from The Simpsons. But, Okay, so also, but before we just start, to say we are going to be chatting briefly to the brilliant winemakers Emma Rice of Hattingley Valley in Hampshire and Liam Idzikowski of Danbury Ridge in Essex, which everyone seems to be talking about right now,
don't they just? And with good reason, which we'll come on to.
Yeah.
But to start at the beginning,
let's
summarise this. So 5 years ago, 2016, it was the year of Brexit, the Brazil Olympics, Andy Murray winning Wimbledon, and the warmest year ever up to that point, which is important. And I think we must have got overexcited or overheated because we decided to do something totally different and make an English wine for charity.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say we being honest, we kind of wanted to do a TV project, hadn't we? And nothing was happening in the wonderful world of TV commissioning. So we thought,
as is the way,
just sod it. Let's do it anyway. And
feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, and have the fun as well. I think the English wine scene was becoming at that point really, really exciting. So we wanted to use the project as a way of kind of highlighting the great work that was going on and the great wines being made in a sort of fun and quite sort of collaborative project.
I think that collaborative spirit was completely vital to this because first up we knew we'd need a winery partner to make it happen. Obviously,
foolish enough.
We certainly weren't going to do it all by ourselves. But we also wanted to raise money for a good cause. We wanted to work with a local artist for the label design, and I think we just wanted as many people as possible to be able to join in on this.
Yeah. So that, hence the idea of putting the name and charity out to a public vote. To
But I think it's important to explain the wines probably before we get onto that. Okay. So in 2016, we helped harvest. That's a bit of a joke, isn't it? We helped harvest and press the grapes, and then later we helped blend several base wines to make what would become, in our opinion, an amazing Hampshire Blanc de Blanc traditional method sparkling wine. It's partly oak aged from a fantastic vintage, 2016, over 4 years on the lees, and all overseen, thank goodness, by one of the country's top winemakers, Emma Rice.
Yeah. And so with that one, we made, I think, was it just under 1,000 bottles, wasn't it? I mean, it sounds a lot to us, But actually,
It's in the
grand
grand wine scheme,
it's really
it's
not
small.
very much. And that really should have been that, shouldn't it? But
it
wasn't.
should.
But it wasn't. Because in 2017, what happened when harvest time came around again, we got overexcited, overheated again.
We did. And this time actually we'd been tasting. We've been tasting some really impressive wines based around Pinot Meunier, Meunier as it can be known, which is a bit overlooked in Champagne compared to Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. But in England, it just seems to kind of sing. It's so aromatic,
really
so
does.
succulent.
It's a point of difference here, I think.
Yeah, but it's also the way it tastes. It's very fresh and structured in your mouth. So anyway, we wanted to make a wine to showcase the potential of Pinot Meunier in England, and it ended up being, I think, it's pretty much nearly a 50-50 blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Meunier, isn't it?
I think that blending process has been fascinating for us to really discover. We know it, we've sort of been there before, but actually to do it when it's your own kind of
responsibility.
Creation. Exactly. As you say, thank heavens for Emma's guidance, but that's been a real eye-opener as well, hasn't it? So that's a really interesting blend, very different from
It's
the
different.
Blanc.
It's different.
It's a bit of oak in there again, and they're different vineyards, aren't they?
Still Hampshire.
Still Hampshire, absolutely, but different vineyards from the first sparkling wine. So and this one's going to be slightly less on these, but it's a slightly more succulent,
3
round and
years
rich
on
style,
the lees.
and that's going to be the blend, isn't it?
The blend.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then what happened? It happened all over again, didn't it? We couldn't resist the hat trick.
Yeah, well,
is that fair to say?
Never knowingly
in this football household.
So I think we kind of probably, it's fair to say, we thought we'd hung up our winemaking spurs, and I use winemaking in a very loose sense there, definitely in inverted commas. But 2018 came along, didn't it? And 2018 was the vintage of the century in England. Everyone got overexcited, not just us. But, I think that also coincided with the fact we've been so impressed by the quality of English still wines in general.
Yeah, of late.
Particularly in this context, the Pinot Noirs, the red Pinot Noirs. And I think that is partly why temptation got the better of us.
It did, I'm afraid. And this also coincided with the fact we'd just been to visit the vineyards of Essex, and Essex is really kind of a real new kid on the block in terms of the bigger modern English wine scene. Anyway, as part of that trip, we'd been to see the then unknown Danbury Ridge wine estate, not far from Wimbledon.
Yeah, which is in sort of, if you don't know Essex, between Chelmsford and Wimbledon, there's two rivers that come in. There's the Blackwater Estuary to the north, and then the Crouch River to the south, and they're kind of between those two water bodies, which do influence the terroir.
And we were just blown away by it all.
Yeah,
weren't we?
it was just stunning, and it all sort of came together, and we thought, one last hurrah! Here we go. Let's showcase the potential, not just of English still wine, but English still red wine. Because if England can do that, we can do anything. And that's when we decided to sort of beg, bended knee to beg Danbury Ridge's new winemaker, Liam, for a barrel of his finest Pinot Noir, which we then helped blend, didn't we? And
I can't believe he said yes, actually.
I
still can't believe it. But he did.
So exciting to showcase that Essex stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it. Anyway, those are the three wines. We're done.
We're done. But we have 3 amazing wines, all different, all delicious, if we do say so ourselves. 2, as we've said, 2 Hampshire sparkling wines, 1 very fine Essex Pinot Noir, to be launched later this year, 2021. There are only 250 bottles of the Pinot, which has already been labelled, all ready to go.
They're very efficient at Danbury Ridge.
They are indeed.
Clearly.
They are
well
indeed.
Done,
so that's
you guys.
all done.
Very efficient.
But
Looks very smart.
we still need a name for the label of our sparkling wines, which we've got a bit more of. And we need a charity to support in all of this. So this is where you come in.
Yeah, this is really, really important. This is the whole point of this episode. So please do send us your ideas and nominations. The deadline is midnight on the 2nd of May, Sunday the 2nd of May. So that gives you about a week from when this episode is first released. 2nd of May 2021 is the deadline for nominations. There are loads of ways to do this. The best way is probably to go to the show notes for this episode, which will be in your app or on our site, susieandpeter.com/podcast. And that will link through to, we've got a page on our website. There's a Big English Wine Adventure page. And there is a form at the bottom of that page where you can really quickly and easily send us in your suggestions or nominations. Equally, if you want to do it on social media, we'll be putting posts out associated to this episode. On Instagram, we're at Susie and Peter. On Twitter, I'm Wine Schools and you're Susie Barry. Finally, if you'd rather, just email us at contact@susieandpeter.com. And you could win a set of the wines and a copy of our Essential Guide to English Wine.
Yeah. So if you've had any light bulbs going off or you have a charity that's particularly suitable or close to your heart, get in touch and you could win a full set of the wines if we end up choosing your nomination, of course.
Equally, if you haven't been inspired, we have got a couple of names here, haven't we, that have already been suggested to date, which might help warm up your grey sails or give you a bit of inspiration. We just want one name, which we can use for the Hampshire sparkling wines, as you've said. And we both have a few kind of favourites so far, don't we? Is that fair enough? I think we're still a work in progress.
Yeah,
but what would you?
Well, I mean, we're thinking. I was thinking very, short names that are easy to pronounce, easy to put on a bottle, that are easy to refer to. If you say, I want a bottle of blah blah. So that those thoughts are very much in our mind. Mine to date are The Cure, which I know I'm not trying to sound trendy at all. Maybe that's not even trendy, but at least it ties in, I thought, with the charity angle. I also like Cocoon, which taps into Hattingley Valley's the butterfly motif.
Yes, they have a butterfly motif, which is important to mention. Actually.
Yeah, which we're going to be using on the label. We think. And then just simple ones like PS. Or SIP, S-I-P.
Yeah, there's something to be done
bit of
on lots of different fronts, isn't there?
Yeah.
I quite like...
You're a little bit different to me in your taste.
Funny that. Yeah, I think funny.
I can't believe we've got different opinions about this.
I quite liked Caritas, someone suggested, which is, I believe, Latin for charity. Someone suggested Gifan, which is Old English for to give, which I really, really liked as well. Albion was a nice suggestion. Buttercross. I just love the sound of that. Buttercross is a famous landmark in Winchester, but I believe there are buttercrosses all around.
Sounds like something you have at Easter, though, doesn't it? No,
I'd like to have a buttercross next Easter. If you're making. Mad Hatter was another one, tying in with Hattingley Valley, I suppose. Remastered was a lovely suggestion, tying in with us being masters of wine. Hope and Glory was another lovely.
I'm not sure we can call it anything to do with hope. Anyway.
Well, there's probably a lot of hope. I'm not sure about
anyway, get in touch. Blow us away. We'd love to hear from you. We are really looking for a really great name. Even if you just want to pre-register, though, to buy some of the wines, you can do that too. We really would love for all the wines to sell out in record time and raise lots of cash for charity. Anyway, to give you a taster of what you could be in for if you win, we had to do this. Or if you want to get your name down to buy these wines, we recorded the moment we first opened a finished bottle of our Essex Pinot. Okay, so we are about to taste our own Pinot Noir, 2018 red Pinot Noir. Made by Danbury Ridge, made by Liam, but it's the first time I'm going to taste it. Yeah,
so Danbury Ridge, Pinot Noir, 2018, Susie Barry MW and Peter Richards MW, single barrel selection. We've never seen that on the label before. Here we go.
No pressure.
Let's just listen to this. I love this noise. Okay, it looks good. It
smells lovely. It does smell creamy. It smells
creamy, but also floral. There's lovely red berry fruit, bit of wood smoke. I mean, that's Pinot. It's proper Pinot. It's ripe Pinot.
It's lovely.
Wow, that packs a punch, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is ripe. It's generous. It's spicy.
Nice, sort of sappy though as well, isn't it? Oh, I like that.
It's a lovely.
I could drink a lot of that.
Mixture of earthiness, lovely Pinot earthiness, but also wonderful wild berry fruit.
Also, I think there's the sort of there's acidity and stuff there that it's the kind of wine that will age and get more complex. Great.
How are we going to have the patience to age up? In fact, we're not going to even have any to age.
This one's getting drunk.
This one's going to get drunk.
Immediately.
So now, you described Essex as, was it a new kid on the block?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sort
nice pop reference there, just to throw that in.
Another one?
We've had The Cure,
oh my goodness.
I'm not sure The Cure are pop. Anyway, sorry, Karen, what were you going to say?
Semantics. Anyway, what I meant was in terms of sort of really exciting, modern, ambitious English winemaking.
Yeah, okay. Because it's important to add that there have been vineyards
in
Essex, haven't there? For quite some time, haven't there? In the modern era, definitely since the 60s.
And some good stuff there.
And some good stuff, and also East Anglia is known as the warmest, driest warmest part of the UK, isn't it? And there's some very serious farming that goes on there, probably in recognition of that fact. But is it fair to say that until now it's just sort of never quite reached the level of winemaking recognition of, say, Kent and Sussex? Is that fair?
I think so, really. Yes. I think you'd have to say that. I mean, a lot of the fruit in the past has been sold off to other producers, so we've probably all drunk Essex wine just without knowing it.
Yeah, as part of a blend, or even presumably somewhat. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, but I guess it's needed. What it's needed is a really ambitious, quality-focused producer to put it on the map, or more than one, But Danbury Ridge certainly seems to be that. It was established by financier Mike Bunker and his family. It's a great vineyard site. No expense has been spared. And the first vintage bottled under the brand was 2018. Now, the plan is to focus on both still and sparkling wines from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Winemaker Liam Idzikowski is a former jockey and racehorse owner who went and did wine vintages around the world before working in English wineries and then joining Danbury Ridge. So I asked him why he wanted to work with Mike and the family making wine in Essex.
So we saw the quality of the fruit from in and around the Crouch Valley, and Pinot Noir and Chardonnay was originally planted for sparkling wines, but we were getting to ripeness levels well before the end of September for sparkling, and this was without even trying. So we weren't, doing crop thinning. The canopy management was kind of more managed towards sparkling. There was 2016. We made some Pinot and Chardonnay, did really well, and this gave Mike Bunker, the owner of Danbury, and his family just that confidence that they could do something special. So kind of escalated from there. Mike doesn't do anything in half measures. He sort of said, right, well, we'll build a winery, completely quality focused. But you have to make some of the best Pinots and Chardonnays sort of in the world.
So by this point, you're at Danbury Ridge. You've been employed by Mike, and actually Peter and I first visited Danbury Ridge back in early 2018. We were doing our little mini wine tour of Essex, and then of course there was the incredible hot 2018 vintage, and that meant that we ourselves couldn't resist the opportunity to collaborate with you to make an English red, a Pinot Noir, from this kind of new winemaking frontier, the Essex, the Crouch Valley. How would you summarise the potential of Essex, and particularly the Crouch Estuary, for fine wine?
Well, it's one of these ones where, same again, at the start of this project, it was like, right, for fine still wine, how often can we do this out of 5 years? Can we make really good Pinots and Chardonnays 2 out of 5 years, 3 out of 5 years? It's a question that we'll continue to ask. I thought maybe we were doing this 10 years too early, but we were able to get to these ripeness levels in 2018. 2019 was same again. We were able to get Pinots at some very good ripeness levels. In 2020, Pinots, Chardonnays were out the roof as far as ripeness levels concerned. And the flavours are there as well. There's this long growing season that we seem to be getting.
Do you think that's particular to Essex?
It is. I think that you've got some of the best sites in Kent that can do it as well. But what we've got in Essex is a lot lower rainfall, and we seem to have just kind of edged over that, sort of just that balance of getting to that ripeness and then pushing it further. And touch wood, there's rot hasn't been really an issue. We seem to be able to hang the fruit out longer. And you listen to winemakers on podcasts about winemaking in Oregon, and we've nearly got it easier here over the last few years than they quite often have in Oregon, where the rains can come down heavy and early, the ripeness levels they're getting might not even be quite as high as here.
So going back to this wine that we couldn't resist making with you, we've obviously made just one barrel of Pinot Noir from 2018, which was, as we've talked, amazing vintage. We selected and we blended with you the wine. What's your take on it? How did we do?
I mean, what you guys did, it was brave. It was, we ended up, sort of looking at the wines. There's what you've got is 18 months in new Francis Ferrer, sort of this medium long. It was extra fine, 36-month season oak. I mean, it was top class oak. It's like sort of what the main Romani Conti use. It's it's quite punchy. It's not there's not
no corners cut.
No corners cut. Quite a traditional sort of flavors and outlook. And I mean, tasting it from barrel, it always tasted amazing. It went into bottle, and it was like, right, this, you tasted it, and it's got the structure, it's got the grip, it's got the finesse. But I was always looking at it, sort of thinking, right, when's this going to come together? Is it going to come together? And it still feels like it's a baby. Like, I mean, I don't know what you guys thought. I haven't really talked to you about sort of since tasting it, but I mean, the potential on it is amazing.
This is what we were amazed with the structure of the wines, the weight, but in a Pinot style weight. It's not too much, but for England to get that kind of colour and flavour and to be able to take that much oak, have enough structure for that much oak, we were really amazed. And I totally agree. I mean, that wine has not reached its peak by any means. It's going to go on for a long time if we can resist drinking it.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're always sort of tempted to crack a bottle open to see just where it's developed and where it's going. But I mean, it's at the stage now where you're happy to open it and you've got some amazing flavors and it's integrating.
Just in terms of Pinot Noir, what for you makes a great Pinot Noir?
Well, yeah. I mean, Pinot's such a complex grape, and the wines are so varied. I think it's very different to likes of the Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, what a Cabernet Sauvignon should taste like. It's I mean, as far as people judging and scoring cabs, it must be so easy. They're a very straightforward, not straightforward wine, but you can kind of like tick all the boxes. Pinot's a bit more different, and there's quite an array. For me, I mean, the first thing that it needs to be silky. It can't be clunky. It needs to have acid. It needs to have a vibrancy about it. But it needs layers of fruit, and it needs the tertiary aromas as well. So the unoaked Pinots for me won't ever have the complexity that the oak brings. Yeah, but yeah, they need to be fresh. They need to be the tertiary. They need vibrancy. Really, is what is the way I sort of see Pinots.
Anyway, Liam, thank you so much. It's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you.
All right, Susie. Thank you.
So Essex is an easier place to grow Pinot Noir than Oregon now.
According to Liam.
I'm not sure. I'm not exactly. That's exactly what he said. But it was a really interesting notion. Yeah. And obviously, Liam has some good, he knows
a lot of experience. He's been around the world.
And what I picked up on, he really thinks our wine will age.
Yeah, and this is a man who knows his Pinot too. And I mean, I asked him for his lockdown wines, and he mentioned Rousseau and Dujac's Grand Cru. So he's aiming high with Pinot. And also when we talked to him at the estate in Essex back in 2019, he compared where the UK is now to New Zealand and Australia in the 1980s.
Okay, so Essex is the next big thing in English wine, and we're very lucky to have a tiny amount of world-class Essex Pinot Noir, courtesy of Danbury Ridge and Liam in our Big English Wine Up. I like that even better.
Big English Wine Up. Is that when it all fails? Let's wine up the Big English.
Yeah, exactly. We've also got 2 sparkling wines from Hampshire, which is what I was coming on to as part of the
beautiful
wine
sparkling wines from Hampshire.
Again, maybe not as well known as Kent and Sussex, but Hampshire is famous for its chalk downs, among other things, of course. And it's certainly an up-and-coming force in English wine. Now, I spoke to Hattingley Valley's head winemaker, Emma Rice, who has, of course, been on the show before, hasn't she? I think it was Series 1, Episode 29.
Yeah, check it out. She talks about Krug 1979.
She does.
I think in Double Magnum or
very
something.
Very well, among many other things.
Yeah.
Anyway, I asked Emma how exciting English sparkling wine is right now.
Well, I'm still very excited to be involved in the industry 10, 12 years on. It's a growing industry. It could be considered one of the final frontiers of winemaking. And it's it's not just the growth in production, but it's the growth in sales and awareness around the world with consumers as well.
And what about quality?
I think the quality is going from strength to strength as the winemakers become more experienced, as we learn from our mistakes. And, it is a steep learning curve. And I don't think a winemaker in the country would say they haven't made a few mistakes along the way. But yeah, the quality is growing, not just from the quality of the grapes, but from the quality of the winemaking.
So Emma, you see fruit from all over because you make wine for other people as well as for yourself. Where and how does Hampshire fit into the bigger sparkling wine picture, given that both of the wines that we've made with you are from Hampshire fruit?
I would say at the moment, Hampshire is very much focused on quality, very high quality sparkling wine. We make some still wines here, which is a new departure, but the fruit for those comes from the eastern counties, Kent and Essex. And I haven't yet seen fruit coming in from a Hampshire vineyard that I would consider to be ripe enough to make good quality still wine. But the sparkling wines, particularly those on the chalk vineyards here in Hampshire, are exceptional in terms of quality.
And what does Hampshire give you? Is it too early to say, but you say chalk soils. What does that give you in terms of what you're tasting in the fruit and also the wines?
I'd say a lot of the Hampshire fruit we get the tasting as juice and as young wines. And when we're doing the blending, which we are at the moment, a depth of flavour. We have this incredibly long growing season. So the Hampshire fruit is the last to come in here at Hattingley. So we're getting the Kent fruit in September. Most of the Hampshire fruit will arrive at the end of October. So you've got another 5 to 6 weeks of time for those grapes to grow and to develop their flavour, while still maintaining that high acidity and relatively low sugar level. I think that's the key element, is the slightly longer growing season.
In both of our wines, we've used some oak-aged components, oak-aged juice. Now, this can be quite a controversial technique, especially when it comes to sparkling wines, can't it? Some purists don't like it. We love it. And you use it. What's your take on the use of oak generally in terms of fizz?
Well, I will confess, when I first started here back in 2010, I told Simon, the owner, that we had to get some barrels. He had no idea that wasn't particularly common in sparkling wine or a generally accepted practice. But I had been working in California for a few years and fell in love with using barrels and older barrels and just the flavors that we would get from, not the flavors as such, but the textures as well from the older barrels. So I managed to persuade him it wasn't very difficult at the time, I have to say, to buy some barrels. And then it became a sort of a signature part of what we do. So it's nearly all old oak. Very few new barrels come into the winery. So we were looking for a texture and small oxidative fermentations with a very high surface to volume lees ratio of the wine in contact with the dead yeast cells at the bottom of the barrel gives us a richness and a depth of flavour that I don't think you get purely from stainless steel ferment. But you do have to be very careful how much oak you use in a sparkling blend, because if you go overboard, when you add a bubble to the wine, it exaggerates any flavours that you have. So this is why you want to generally start with a fairly neutral base wine going into bottle, because the bubble and the aging process will exaggerate any flavours in the wine. So got to be very careful. A judicious use of oak, I think, is what is required with sparkling.
Judicious, indeed. I'm so glad we've been working with an expert like you on all of this. This is well beyond Susie and my pay grade. But to move on, when we made our second sparkling wine, we got very, very excited about the potential of Pinot Meunier or the Meunier grape variety in the UK. What's your take on Meunier as a variety in the UK?
Well, don't try it in Essex. It doesn't work. Kent, you get some reasonable Meuniers, but it's not the forte of the eastern counties, shall we say. By far the very best Pinot Meunier wines that we get in the winery are from Hampshire, and they are grown on chalk. And it doesn't, on paper it shouldn't work, but it does. And then actually the very, very best Meuniers that we see are generally those that we've put to barrel as well. So a combination of those things gives us this wonderful combination of flavours that come from the Meunier you don't get from the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir.
Our sparkling wines with you came from the 2016 and 2017 vintages. How would you characterise those vintages and briefly, and any sort of recollections you have from those years, apart from us, of course, getting in the way when it came to harvesting and blending?
Well, both of those vintages are indelibly marked in my brain as two of the biggest, hardest frost years we've ever had. So frost coming in April. 2016, it was the 27th of April, and 2017, it was the 26th of April. Temperatures got down to -6 for a very concentrated period of time, like 6-7 hours, which is very unusual. So those vintages were set back by that in terms of yield. So that we had much smaller yields, which in turn led to a small crop, which we had subsequently. Both of those vintages were quite warm and quite benign after the frost had hit. And so the vines were only trying to ripen a relatively small crop because of what had happened early in the season. Therefore, the fruit was actually pretty nice and ripe by the time we got to it, because the vines didn't have much energy to expend on them. And 16 was probably harder than 17. 17 is turning out to be one of those vintages which is going to be a bit of a nice surprise, I think. We didn't have high hopes for it, but it's actually some of the wines coming from this that we're looking at now from the 17 vintage are really, they're what you might call a sleeper vintage. It wasn't upfront and obviously a fantastic year, but in the bottle, these wines are starting to develop some wonderful flavours. So, yeah, it's all very excited about them.
Sounds brilliant. So 2016 maybe more intensity to the wines than 2017, or is it not that easy to summarise?
Well, just to give you an example, what we did in 2016, normally when we're making a range of wines here, we'll pull out the best, a selection of the best Chardonnays to make a Blanc de Blanc, which we did for you. We're doing it on a relatively small scale. That was fine. But if I'd done that for in the wider winery, I would have taken the heart of the Chardonnay out of the winery in order to make that wine. Therefore, I would have compromised my classic blend. And similarly, if I'd done that for a rosé and taken the best Noir and Meunier out of the winery to make a rosé, I wouldn't have had anything left to make a classic. So we made a very hard decision that year. We only made one wine in 2016 for us. That's a reflection of the frost and of the limitations that then imposed on us in terms of volumes to work with in the winery. But the quality was great. It's just the volumes were much smaller.
So our 2016 wine, which is a Blanc de Blanc, is the only Blanc de Blanc you made that year.
It is, I think. Yes, you're probably right.
Now we feel really bad that we've stolen that fruit from you, but it's going to a good cause. Emma Rice, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Actually realised that Hattingley only made their classic fizz in 2016. I feel slightly guilty now for stealing their prime Chardonnay. Did you know that?
I know.
Did we know that? I don't think we did.
Not really. So we've only just learned that. And yes, I understand.
It does make it quite special, doesn't it?
Well, there you go. We have a really special wine. It's a proper collector's item.
Yeah.
They didn't make any other wines in 2016. We've got their one, anyway.
Yeah.
But they did, more importantly, they did get to make all their wines in 2017 again.
Yeah.
So we feel better about that.
Absolutely.
Interesting also what she said about Hampshire's forte being sparkling wine off chalky vineyards, didn't she? And,
yes.
and the intensity and the kind of depth of flavour that gives.
Yeah,
I thought was a really interesting point from her.
Anyway, so our big English wine adventure is, as we've said, all about 3 unique wines. We've heard from the real winemakers. Now what we need to do is raise some serious money for a good cause when we come to sell these wines later in the year. Yeah.
So please do join in. Send us your nominations and you could win these amazing wines and a copy of our Essential Guide to English Wine. The deadline for entries, as I've said, is midnight on Sunday, the 2nd of May, 2021. Over 18s only, please. And also, please do register your interest, to secure your allocation, as it were.
Sounds very grand, doesn't it? Allocation of our wines.
These wines are going to be in a lot of demand, and there's only very few of them. We'll put links in the show notes on your app and also on our website, which is susieandpeter.com/ facebook.com/podcast, or do get in touch via email or social media or whatever. We'd love to hear from you.
Anyway, well, thank you for listening, and thank you in advance for your support on this. Thanks also to Emma and Liam, obviously, to Hattingley Valley and Danbury Ridge, and everyone who's helping out with our big English wine adventure. There'll be more on this in due course, of course, but for now, stay safe, keep your glass topped up, and cheers.